This is Alex Gibbert, and I'm joined by Neil McCready and Chase Parham, and this is your RebelGrove.com preview for Auburn at Ole Miss this Saturday. Guys, Ole Miss is coming off a tough loss against A&M. How do you think the team is going to respond to that?
I think they're going to be okay. I think kids are more resilient than adults, more resilient than coaches, and I thought the coaches had bounced back pretty quickly. You know, initially you walked out of that stadium on Saturday night and you thought, God, they really blew the game. And then you go back and you watch the replay, the film, and yeah, they did blow the game, but Texas A&M took the game. And in the last 7 minutes of that game, there wasn't really anything fluky with the exception of a questionable holding call on Pierce Burton. Everything else was A&M making plays and Ole Miss coming up a play short. The 3rd and 19 is a perfect example. Sinquez Golson was in position to make a great play. The kid for Texas A&M made a better play, took the ball. At 3rd and 4th and an inch with Jeff Scott running the football, the kid for Texas A&M, the defensive back, came untouched, went right to the hole, made the right hit on Jeff Scott. He made the play. Ole Miss didn't make the play. I think in some ways that makes it a little easier to bounce back because you tell kids we're a play away. We didn't get robbed. It wasn't anything crazy. Yeah, Bo Wallace made a bad read on that last play. And A&M got a little lucky there because the kid that intercepted the pass was in the wrong place, in the right place at the wrong time, or wrong place at the right time, whatever the word is. He wasn't where he was supposed to be, but it worked out for him. They've bounced back quickly, I think in large part because this is 2 or 3 weeks in a row where they've played really well and they feel like they're about to break through. And here comes Auburn in, and this is a game that Ole Miss should win. Las Vegas clearly thinks Ole Miss should win. All the smart money is on the Rebels, and if they play well, they'll snap this streak. And if you'd offer Chase, most anybody inside that program, 4-3, 1-2 going into the open date, they might have wanted a little more, but you would have been able to sell it.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I think, as you mentioned, the coaching staff's what really set that tone. Hugh Freeze really came off with a really good attitude. He handled the press conference well on Monday. You know, if he handled the media well, he handled the team well on Sunday. He's trying to turn the page. He's trying to just take the positives. Now, in saying that, I do think they have to get this one. I think it's tough to go into the bye week, maybe, 0-3 in the SEC, Arkansas, who suddenly might be a little resilient because they've got Kentucky before a bye week. So, no, this is the critical game. Before at the beginning of the year, we said UTEP was the swing game. Well, the way it's turned out, Auburn's become the swing game as they try to move forward. It's one they've got to get, and I think the psyche would be really, really tested if they lost this one.
Yeah, I mean, there's a better chance of losing to bye than there is losing to Kentucky.
Yeah.
Bye's a lot more dangerous right now than Kentucky is.
Well, like Neil said, Ole Miss is a big favorite for this game. What is the one thing the Rebels need to do to win this one?
Get off to a hot start. They've got to get there quickly, kind of get a lead. I think Auburn will lay down a little. I think while Auburn is still playing Virginia Chiswick, we talked about this on the podcast, I think they will quit if you jump on them. That's what Mississippi State did at Auburn that day. It's kind of what Arkansas did as well. It's the one thing where Auburn is not built for a lead. They're coming back from a lead, coming back from a deficit at all, and then also stop the run game. Make the guys throw the ball and beat you. Make Mosley, make Kyle Frazier throw the ball. Make them try to get something going in the air because so far they've been awful.
Ole Miss fans just need to look back at last season. This is a team that quit very early in the year. It was over. It was obvious that there were going to be coaching changes. There were administrative changes. All the things that are going to happen at Auburn were happening here. And if you go back and look at the 2 games that Ole Miss was in last year, Georgia, Arkansas, was the games that Ole Miss stayed in there early. When other teams, LSU, Mississippi State, Alabama, when those teams jumped on Ole Miss, it was night-night. It was done. And that's the key against Auburn Saturday is you got to get ahead of them and make them think, here we go again, where some of that infighting happens. A lot of public infighting out of there this week. And for all the talk from coaches about, we're going to find an identity and nobody's quit. When young kids are questioning older kids' leadership and when you have a quarterback problem, you have a team that's on the cusp of being just ripped apart. And you can take care of that in the first quarter, early part of the second quarter. You get a 14, 17-point lead on a team like Auburn, and they're toast. And like Chase said, their quarterback situation is so erratic. You've got one kid, Kyle Frazier, who's very athletic and can't throw the football, and then you have another kid in Clint Mosley who can throw it a little better, but he's a statue back there. So it's not like they can mix and match with those 2 guys. The key is getting them in 3rd and long, and putting the ball in the hands of the quarterbacks because their quarterbacks are that's not A.J. McCarron, and it's damn sure not that kid for Texas A&M, Johnny Manziel. They don't have those kind of weapons. You can tee off on them.
Well, what is your thoughts on the Auburn quarterback situation? I mean, Neil just touched on it a good bit, but you obviously have some other thoughts.
I mean, that's basically it. I mean, Chris Kiffin said that's what in a way makes them easier to prepare for, in a way makes them tougher because they don't mix and match with the same system like Ole Miss does. You know, Ole Miss can put Bo Wallace, they can put Barry Bernetti in, and it's kind of the same plays. This is all different personnel groupings depending if it's Frazier or Mosley. They run as many as 50 or 60 different formations. So for Ole Miss, you know, a little bit it's got to be universal. They got to just attack the passer no matter who it is. They've got to fluster him, put pressure on him because, as you said, it's not Manziel. You're not worried about keeping him in or out of the pocket. It's just kind of go get him as quickly as possible. And I think that's what they're going to do. They're going to blitz. They're going to try to get some pressure with that front four. Auburn's offensive line has not been good at all. So, you know, that's what you do. You just try to pressure them, and they're going to make mistakes. I think so far it's 4 touchdowns and 10 picks for Auburn quarterbacks.
Yeah, they're going to try to run the football a lot, and I think the one shot they have, Auburn, is Ontario McCaleb, who has world-class speed, and against an Ole Miss defense they'll admit themselves, it's not the fastest defense in the world. If they can contain him and not let him beat them with big plays, I think everything shapes up pretty well for them because offensively things are clicking. I mean, everybody talks about Bo Wallace's last interception. But before that, I thought he played a really good game. I mean, the first interception was just a fluke. It wasn't his fault. It was the ball slipped out of his hand. I thought he played a really clean game. If he can continue to build on that on a week where he's probably a little distracted because of what's happened in his family, if he can build on that, I think this offense begins to really click. Jeff Scott had a great game on Saturday. It got overlooked. Vince Sanders was terrific. Jamez Logan was good. Now they get Corvick Neat back. They're a little deeper, and Dante Moncrief remains a weapon, and they're healthy. And I think their offensive front has begun to play a little better. It's a chance for them to roll up some points against a very mediocre Auburn defense. And if you get them behind, Auburn can't play catch-up.
So is Auburn playing for Gene Chizik's job this Saturday?
Yes and no. I mean, they are, but that decision's been made. I'm telling you, I covered that program for years. Two things are going on there. They're not winning. Fans will stop coming because people talk about fan base here when they were losing and people didn't come. Fans don't go anywhere when you're losing. They didn't show up in Tuscaloosa when they were losing at the end of Mike Shula's tenure. And then speaking of Tuscaloosa, Nick Saban has it going so well there that it's real pressure on Auburn to try to match it. They can't let Alabama just escape them. It makes recruiting academic students hard. It makes morale hard. It makes raising money hard. That state's 365 days a year. It's cliche in a lot of places. It's not there. Those people are freaking nuts. And when it pertains to football, they can't tolerate it. I think what you're going to see with Auburn is these next 2 weeks is it's the difference between maybe something happening quickly and then being able to get to the end of the season at Ole Miss, at Vanderbilt. Truth be told, put a gun to your head right now and said pick those two games. You go with the Rebels and you go with the Commodores at home against an Auburn team that's reeling. Let them lose at Ole Miss and at Vanderbilt. The mentality that's in that state, I don't know that Gene Chizik can survive October.
Yeah, that's what I was going to hit on. It's those next 2 weeks that might have a little bit of life for Auburn if they get up early and get a lead on Ole Miss. If they go, hey, we can build on this a little bit. There's, 2 cupcakes left at the end of the schedule. Now there's some tough games too. They've still got Georgia. They've still got Alabama. But now I think you can talk the players into, if you can get up at Ole Miss a little bit, like you said, Vanderbilt, Alabama State, or Alabama A&M, whoever it is,
right.
New Mexico. There's games to win, but it just to come to full circle, it all starts back. Ole Miss has to get that lead, get out ahead, and just end this thing quickly.
Well, thanks, Chase and Neil. Kickoff is scheduled for 11:21 a.m. this Saturday, and be sure to check out rebelgrove.com for your full coverage. I'm Alex Gibbert.